All right, here we go. All right, go ahead and go.
Hello, this is Oscar.
And this is Kaya Frazier. And let's do it again.
You know what? We always do this anyway.
Yeah.
Let's have
It's
fun.
all good.
Right?
Just have fun.
All right. Hi, I'm Oscar Frazier.
And I'm Kaya Frazier.
And you're listening to the Jeff Smith Show on Vroom Vroom Veer.
Perfect. It's Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, but that's okay.
Let's try that again.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Hi, this is Oscar Frazier.
And this is Kaya Frazier.
And you're tuned in to the Vroom Vroom Veer Show with Jeff Smith.
Watch
Buckle
out.
up.
Buckle up. Ah!
Join our chit show, right?
Well done. Buckle up. Buckle up, Buttercup. All right, I'm going to hit stop. I'll be right back. Perfect.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Pappalardo, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going. Thanks for having me.
All right, it's going. That's a perfect answer for where you are in your life. So talk a little bit about what you're most excited about in life, your business. Your URL is customizeyour.life, which is pretty cool. I like that, the .life domain. So
thank you.
Yeah, whatever you want to say about that, go ahead and do that.
Oh yeah, you know, our business is in a great place, and we're just so thankful for the momentum and the growth that we're seeing in it. Our business is essentially about helping people customize their life based upon their values, and so it goes much deeper than that, but that's the baseline to it. Right. And right now we're really experiencing that feeling. You know, if you've ever gone surfing or you just sat and watched the waves in the ocean, right? And you see where it kind of recedes a little bit, it builds, and then it starts to crash. And so we've really felt that building, and we're starting to crash with that exponential growth and momentum.
Ooh, okay.
And it feels
like you're kind of leveling up and at this moment. Wow, yeah, nice.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, it's quite contrary to what we're experiencing in our personal life.
Right.
We haven't necessarily personally been able to be the main drivers behind our business right now. My husband is currently overcoming cancer, and it's been quite a journey over the past year.
Yeah. Scary.
So it's been
all
really
emotions. all the feels. All
of it. Yes. I'm wearing it like a robe, but it's just been such a testament to the team that we have, that we're working with, and how they've really just taken the helm and charged forward, and we're so proud of everybody.
Amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know you're doing something right when you can leave and things don't go all shitty, right?
Yes,
that in and of itself could be a story all together by itself.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that to me is kind of like the key of the definition of success, right? When your business is better than you, when it outlasts you, when it doesn't need you, then you've done something right, because you've built people, and the people sustain the businesses. It's not the business that sustains the people.
Right. That's amazing. Well said. Yeah. That's what, that reminds me of Ferris when he was all stressed out and decided to go to wherever some trip, like in Asia, right? And he assumed his business would be thoroughly wrecked. And then he came back and everything was amazing. Nobody knew you were gone, boss.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
Right. Okay. So later on, not right away, we're going to talk about when you were, your daughter recently interrupted a podcast and how all sorts of hilarity ensued. And then on a sadder note, there was a story about when you were in 5th grade and you got invited to a dance and things didn't go the way you thought they would.
Yeah.
So, but those, okay, I'm looking forward to that because stories from 5th grade are few and far between. I'd have to think really hard about 5th grade for me to come up with a story. I don't remember 5th grade. Okay. So go ahead.
It was a memorable year for me, so we'll get into that in a little bit.
I think, yeah, I'm going to save my comments for when we talk about it. So that's good. That's like a double tease. All right. So talk a little bit about like you before 2008, because we all heard the story about, when your father died and that trauma and the grief and the loss and how that transformed you. But who were you before that? Any place on that. So I knew you went to college, you were going into the entertainment industry. So talk a little bit about you before 2008. I know that's a lot, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, well, I was like any other kid growing up that just wanted to have fun and, pursue their dreams. And, my family moved around a lot. My father was in the military.
Oh, wow.
I know you're Air Force or former Air Force. And thank you for your service. My father was a civilian Army. My brother was Air Force, both grandfathers in the Army. So we are a military family.
That's awesome.
And very, very, very appreciative for your service.
It's almost like you served too. If you were like a military kid,
yep,
it's like you were in, really.
Maybe not quite as difficult as what you had to do.
Right. I don't know.
I probably never did as many push-ups as you or face the things.
I was in the Air Force. Come on, we don't do push-ups. We ride the bike. No, they changed it. I'm sorry. That was just for fun. For a while there, we did just ride the bike. Really? Yeah. Our fit test was just this ergonomic. It was really very scientific, where they like measured your VO2 ox level or something. And then what happened was all Air Force people got really optimized at riding a stationary bike. That doesn't really make you fit for being on deployment. But you are really good at riding a stationary bike.
What happens when the bike's not there?
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, I mean, I thought I was already fit before they made this bike test. Right. So then they make the bike test and I didn't do well on it. Right. And thankfully I was given a couple of practice tests because I was going to be the test monitor for the unit.
Yeah.
And I realized that I was like, why am I doing so poorly on this? I run all the time. I'm fit. I work out. What is it? And she's like, oh no, you have to ride the bike to do good on this test, because you have to build up your quads and your hams, right? Because if you don't ride a bike all the time, your body's going to freak out and your heart rate's going to go up. So she's like, just ride a stationary bike. In a couple of months, you'll pass this test with flying colors. And I'm like, that's stupid.
That's so interesting.
Right?
It's so interesting because it is a different muscle group for people that aren't used to riding bikes. You could be very fit and do well on a bike.
What happened was the Air Force had like some people drop dead because they were like, they could go and like do zero fitness all year, and then they would make them do an annual fit test and run a mile and a half in a certain amount of time. So people would just like do nothing, show up and drop dead. Okay?
Like that fitness test.
On a fitness test. Yes. There was a certain percentage above zero of people taking their annual fitness test. So they're like, we have to stop killing our people. Because any number above zero is wrong, right? That should not happen, right? So that's how we got the bike test.
Wow.
Yeah. The bike test lasted long enough for us to realize that we needed to encourage people to be fit all the time. So that eventually happened. Yeah. So
did you all have bikes in your room, or was there like, I'm a very practical, logistical person. Yeah. So how many bikes were available to you guys at any given time to go?
Well, the gym on most Air Force bases and military bases is open 24/7, and it's filled with all the exercise bikes and every cardio thing you can imagine.
But how many bikes? Because hundreds of people running at
more
the
than
same
a spin class.
Okay.
I mean, but you were doing all of that on your own, right? That was all on your own time. You weren't doing that. You weren't riding a stationary bike as a group.
Yeah, but there were thousands of you on base probably. And, on any given lunch break, there were hundreds of you that probably wanted to ride your bike.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it was crowded in the gym. Yeah.
how dependent you were on a piece of machinery to pass your test. You couldn't just like do push-ups in your room. You had to get on this bike. Fascinating, interesting.
Yeah.
Never did that.
A regular bike worked too, though. It didn't have to be a stationary bike. So some people rode a bike on their own kind of thing. So they would do okay too. As long as you're doing a bike-like move. Wow, that's an awesome tangent. I love this show.
I think I need to invest in these bikes, man.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so let's get into a little bit of like identity or like, because I think the way that you present, you and Tony both, the way you guys present yourself online all the time is very authentic to me. But I bet you weren't always like that. So talk a little bit about what that was like and when that happened and when you realized you wanted to be more authentic with yourself, with others, with Tony. And
thanks for asking that.
Okay. Yeah. I like that question because when I started doing it, it was amazing.
Yeah. Thanks for making me think about that. Because I love reflecting on those things and, you know, so I know when the shift for me occurred, but when I look at my entire life, I think about coming into this world. You're a kid, you're authentic when you're a child, right? My 3-year-old couldn't be more authentic.
That's true.
She is emotive. She says everything that's on her mind.
Right.
Sometimes it's embarrassing when we're in public, but mostly hilarious.
Thoroughly unfiltered.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So what happens? You start getting conditioned. You start changing. You want to start to be accepted.
School. Right.
You know, being in a military family, we did move around a lot. And so I went from suburban Kansas City to a small town in Alabama during one of our moves. And that's where I started to get picked on and made fun of. And I got made fun of a little bit in Kansas City as well. I think I think sometimes what happens if you don't grow up in the town that you live in, you don't have all these established friendships before you go to school, you're automatically the odd man out. And kids don't know what to do with that sometimes.
You're the new kid.
I was the new kid. I was a new kid in Kansas when I got there. I was a kid in Alabama when I got there. Alabama was a little bit more rough because it was a cultural shift as well, from the clothes I was wearing to the way that I sounded.
Right.
And you know, I was just the foreigner in the school. And so I started getting conditioned. I started getting made fun of. I started, figuring out how to react to those things in my environment, because for some reason I had this instinctual wisdom that I knew that when those kids were making fun of me, it wasn't personal. I knew that somehow. I don't know if my parents told me that. I knew it. And because in large part, the things I was getting made fun of for in Alabama were actually cool in Kansas. So I connected those dots, you know.
Interesting. Wow.
And I said, okay, I just got cool in Kansas and now I'm doing the same thing over here and now I'm getting made fun of. So I knew it was groupthink. I knew it was cultural. I knew it didn't have to do with me.
That's awesome. Actually, that's a really beneficial thing that happened to you, really, when you think about it. If you would have stayed in one place, you would have thought you were cool the whole time.
I would have thought everybody else in the world was crazy. I love New Yorkers, and I've lived in New York for the last 10 years, and I have so many deep-rooted friendships there. I love the people, but it's always hilarious to me because New Yorkers sometimes are the most, I don't know if the word's prejudice, but like they always, you hear like, anything that's outside of New York, it's like, what do people even do there? Like,
I know that feeling. Yes.
You've never even been there.
Right. And that happens a lot in the different neighborhoods in and around Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So I always sort of assumed anybody, because I grew up in a very small town in Michigan. So like same people from, birth all the way till I was 18 and joined the Air Force. And then I saw what the world was. Right.
Yeah.
So I always sort of assumed as a small town kid that all big city people are smarter and more worldly than me. And that is not true. That is not true. So the LA people, like, are you familiar with LA at all?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So like I spent all of my time like around South Bay in Torrance in the beach cities.
Yep.
Okay. because that was sort of close to the Air Force Base.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, after I retired, I went and did massage school up in the Valley, like around Studio City.
Okay.
And all those Valley people knew absolutely nothing about Torrance or the South Bay. They were like, that may as well be another planet. And that was surprising to me. They had never, ever, they didn't even know the 110 went that far south. It was like, what is that, like Pedro? And I'm like, kind of, not really, no. Yes, and no, yeah, right.
Yeah,
It was interesting waking up. Okay, so talk a little bit more about like how you like had that sort of like, okay, now this is what it's like being authentic with myself, right?
Yeah. So that those conditioning layers did start to happen because I was trying to figure out how what do I do? Do I be myself? Do I be what they want? And it was a little bit of a tug of war because as a kid, you do want to be accepted, but then you also want to be yourself, you know?
Right.
So it was a positive tension in my life. And, you know, I think I made it all the way through high school being very authentic because I figured out how to get that polarity to work in my life.
You're kind of like, you have this awareness that now I'm doing this to fit in, right?
Yeah.
A little bit, right? Like I'm giving them a little bit of what they need, right? But you have that awareness, right? That's huge.
Yeah. So I would say like I stayed true all the way through high school, and then I became lesser authentic when I got to college.
Okay.
And then when my dad passed away, that's when everything shifted me back.
So what was college like? You were just trying to fit in a lot more. That is a big shift. Yeah.
It was a big shift for a few years because in high school I was able to make myself cool. We'll talk about that one.
Yeah, I get it.
That's a great dance story. Like,
right.
You know, the people in my hometown were wonderful people. And yes, I got made fun of when I got there, but I figured out how to stay myself and make friends with everybody. By the end of my senior year, I was friends with everybody, but I was still me. Right. And then when I went to college, though, I was automatically accepted by like the best sorority or whatever it's all.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah, right.
Everybody's sorority is the best sorority to them, but perception wise, it was like, that's the hard one to get into.
Okay.
And I went through Rush as a dare from my sister, because she's like, you got to just see what it's like, you know? And I was like, this is all, I stuck my nose at it. I'm like, I'm not a sorority girl. This is not me.
Right.
You know, I came in like looking very just different. I'm kind of like a 50 hard, like never wore makeup except for when I had to with performance. Like I was definitely not like looking at like a sorority girl. Okay. And so my sister was like, this will be fun. Like, just see what it's like on the inside. You know?
Like you were going to be a spy, right?
She wasn't in a sorority either. And I looked up to her so much. And so she was always daring me to do stuff like this. And so I'm like, all right, I'll go. And I went through Rush and I told the girls every time they'd try to sit me down and recruit me and give me that hard talk, I would tell them, I'm not pledging. I'm here to just see this charade. Like I'm not pledging.
Okay.
And so the final night, they gave me, her name's Gabrielle Ruiz. She's on the CW's Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Her character is Valencia. She was in the Heights on Broadway. She's an amazing performer, and a few other shows as well. If Then, and one with Ricky Martin. I'm forgetting it, but she's an amazing human.
Okay.
Well, she got me on the last night, and she went straight to my heart, and she related to me. She sat me down on a couch. She related to me. She went straight to my heart. She talked to me about how these relationships have helped her within the dance program and the alumni chapter in New York City. And so she made it like practical, smart. And she also like went to the jugular. So I was
emotional jugular.
Yes. I was completely blindsided my last night of Rush. I was like, what just happened? all of a sudden, did they just brainwash me? Is this what brainwashing is?
Right.
And I told my sister
That's a bigger conversation, the brainwashing.
Yeah. And so I told my sister that I pledged, and she's like, so then she always teases. Well, she loves God. She had a chance to meet Gabrielle, and she loves her. And Gabrielle really is amazing. My sorority sisters, I had many amazing. I'm not dogging the sorority. There was a great group of girls to be associated with.
So it's not all bad, is what you're saying.
No, but
but you learned that. That's good.
Yeah, my sister still jokes. She's like, "How's your $500 friend Gabi doing?"
$500.
But it wasn't. I want to be clear. It wasn't the sorority's fault. It was that I was automatically accepted with the cool crowd, and I started. I didn't drink right away, and
you didn't drink right away. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's a nice thing to say.
No, it became like a mission for some of the athletes and my sorority sisters to get me to drink. And the night that I drank was like a big event for everybody, which was just crazy looking back on it. But anyways, that kind of started me on the journey of now really liking the association, liking the approval, liking the likes on Facebook, liking all of that. And I just got wrapped up in it until my first semester of senior year when my father passed away.
Wow.
So.
Okay. So you kind of did spiral into the rabbit hole of, I don't know. What do you call that?
Living on the surface,
Right. Okay. Yeah, sure.
Just living for the likes,
living
the weekend, the like,
yeah,
the approval, the things that don't go deep,
Right. Wow. Okay. But then you had the big wake up call.
Yeah. Right. So my first semester senior year, I get a call that my dad had cancer, and a year before he had a stroke, but he was doing better. But then we get the call, he has cancer. He probably only has a few weeks to live.
Wow.
And I'll never forget where I was standing. I'll never forget the faces of the people that I was looking at. And they were looking at me as I was falling apart in the lobby of my dance building. And the dean of my school was gracious. They refunded me my tuition that semester, told me just go home. And
that's amazing. That is a gift.
That was
a gift.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
I want to if I mean, that's not something that most people want to ask for, but one of the things that I would love to do is be there, right? When one or the other or both parents, I want to be there for the whole dying event, beginning and soup to nuts. Because I know it's sad and you're going to deal with the grief, right? But I heard you say on another show that it's also simultaneously beautiful. Right? It is, right? I know. And I don't want to be morbid, but we have this weird relationship, us humans, with the fact that we're going to die. we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to know about it. We just want to basically just pretend it's not true until we have to face it. And you, unfortunately or fortunately, had an opportunity and or curse, blessing, whatever you want to say, to have to live through it pretty young. It's hard and a gift. It's a hard gift, right? Talk a little bit about what was beautiful about it. Just the fact that you got to be there and feel those feels. Sorry that happened to you, but talk about the beautiful part, because that's what most people miss, I think.
It was so beautiful. And that's a unique perspective to have. Yeah. I think for our listeners to hear you say that, that's probably getting them to think a lot right now.
Right. Right.
Because again,
it's just giving them the dog tilt head.
you just challenged a track that a thought track that they've had, and might be creating a shift in it. But it is beautiful. Unfortunately, I lost one of my close friends when I was 15 years old in a car accident, and that happened just like that. There was There was no goodbyes. There was no let's talk about the meaning of life. There was no gratitude exchanges. It was just she's here, she's gone, and
It's like ripped. It's a
yes,
ripped,
and that grief
torn.
process,
Ouch.
yanked. That grief
Yes.
process was entirely different because
Well, that's trauma, so it's PTSD plus grief. That's what that is. That's like getting hit by a truck, and then you wake up and your friend's dead. That's
yep. The denial, disbelief, moving into okay, it's for real, moving into the falling apart moments. Then I mean, but none of the exchanges that I got to have with my father took place with my friend Amanda.
right.
So getting to come home and be with him, it was a gift, and I'm so thankful to my alma mater, Oklahoma City University, the dean, for graciously granting me that. And I would have gone home anyways, but very nice that they refunded the money for that semester. And, it was just my family and me at home with my dad. Hospice had brought him to our living room and got set up comfortably. And we had an amazing community in Gunnersville, Alabama, where I grew up, and that surrounded our family during that time. And my father was a leader in the Army. So there were people flying in from all the places that, he had worked or visited. And so we were surrounded by angels truly on earth. And, but those moments with my dad, when you get to sit bedside with somebody who sees the light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. They almost are in contact with the other side at that moment. They're sort of like half here, half there. Right. Right. Yes.
I mean, truly, he refused
on both sides.
Yeah. He refused morphine, which was
That's
crazy.
brave.
He was in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to hallucinate. So what you just said, being in touch with the other side, he truly was.
I know.
You can't say he was hallucinating.
No, because he wasn't on drugs.
He wasn't on the morphine. He wasn't on drugs.
Right.
And he saw things. He saw people in the room. That he said, your grandfather's here playing his guitar. And you're like, whoa. This is, and then that last moment, which I know nobody wants to think about, but the moment when he actually passed. If you haven't been with somebody when they died, it's, there's a gasp of breath typically that occurs in the body.
Right.
He hadn't been able to sit up. He sat straight up in bed like a stiff board, had this gasp. His eyes were wide open, and he had the most beautiful blue eyes. They were just so wide open. And it was like, you saw that he saw, and it was so peaceful. And you just saw this like, whoa, he just passed through. He just shifted. And after it was crazy. It was so supernatural. And as soon as he passed, everybody went to the body. And I felt no need to go to his body.
Right.
I went out of respect and out of almost like, this is what everybody in the room is doing.
Right. You have to honor the social convention. Yes.
Yeah. But I knew he's not in that body anymore.
Right.
And
gone.
I felt
he left.
I felt a presence around us. It could have been him. It could have been God. But I just knew like, Dad's not in that body anymore. And I know exactly where he went. And that piece is, was everything.
Amazing. For you to be able to just be there and attend that and experience that. I read this whole book about this lady that was going around. Her book was sort of like a little bit of both. It was all the events around death. And now I'm going to have to go figure out what the name of the book and the author, but I'll do that in the show notes later.
Oh, she was a hospice care worker, right?
Maybe it's possible.
Okay. There's Bronnie Ware, she was a hospice care worker.
What was the name of the book?
I don't know. It was about the 10 regrets of people dying.
No, this is more about NDEs and that sort of thing. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Which, but I mean, not everybody has an NDE. A lot of people die too. And she talked to, it was stories from people that it had your experience. Like the whole thing about like what more about how they change in the process of dying, and sort of like how you can tell they're like conversing with this side and our side at the same time. And most people just sort of like call that babble, and, you know, sort of like, well, their brain is